Hey everyone, and welcome. Today we're going to dive into the wild, chaotic world of social media data. It's just this constant fire hose of likes, comments, and shares. It's a lot of noise. But what if I told you there's a way to turn all that noise into something actually valuable? Stick around because that's exactly what we're breaking down today. So, I gotta ask you, is all your social media activity just making a bunch of noise, or is it actually making you and your organization smarter? This is a huge question, right? And it's the one we're going to tackle head-on with a simple but super powerful framework.
Okay, so the challenge really starts with what I call the social media deluge. Think about it. Organizations are practically drowning in this sea of data. All these comments, videos, shares, it's completely unstructured and honestly, it can feel overwhelming. Like, where do you even begin?
And just to give you a sense of scale, look at this number. We're talking nearly 3 billion. That's billion with a B, monthly active users on Facebook alone. Just imagine the sheer volume of data that creates every single day. So yeah, it's no wonder so many of us feel like we're just treading water.
So the goal here isn't just to somehow manage all this data. It's to pull out real value. And when I say value, I'm not just talking about money, Sure, it could be something tangible, like a boost in sales, or finding new leads, absolutely. But it can also be something, intangible, but just as important. Stuff like building a rock-solid brand reputation, or even getting killer ideas for your next big product. So how in the world do we navigate this data deluge without getting completely lost? Well, you need a map. And today, our map is this really simple 3-step framework. It's designed to take you from total social media chaos to clear, actionable insights.
And here it is. We call it the DEV framework. It stands for Discovery, Analysis, and Visualization. Simple, right? This is our guide. It's the systematic path we can follow to get from that messy, raw data to making really smart, real-world decisions. Let's break down what each of these steps actually means.
All right, let's jump into step 1, discovery. I want you to think of this like you're prospecting for gold. You wouldn't just start digging randomly, right? No way. You have to know what you're looking for and where to look first. This whole step is about finding and preparing your raw materials.
Okay, so the discovery process really has 3 key parts. First, you've got to define clear goals. Don't just ask a vague question like, how's social media going? That gets you nowhere. Be specific. Ask something like, which one of our video styles gets the most shares? See the difference? Second, you gather the right data to answer that specific question. And third, and this is so important, you have to clean that data. We call it data wrangling. It's basically filtering out all the junk, the spam, the bots, all the irrelevant noise, so you're left with just the good stuff. You have to do this because the quality of your final insights totally depends on the quality of the data you start with.
Let's make this real with an example. There's this luxury perfume brand, Bien Parfum. They started their discovery phase with really clear goals. They didn't just grab a bunch of random data. Nope. They were super focused. They collected data specifically on engagement, who their audience was, and what people were actually saying about their brand online.
Okay, so now we've got our clean, relevant data ready to go. It's time for step 2, analysis. This is the exciting part. This is where we sift through all that information and start finding the actual nuggets of gold, those hidden patterns and trends that start to tell a story. So there are a few ways we can slice this. First up, content analysis. This is basically asking, what are people even talking about? This is how you identify the big themes. Like, are they talking more about price, or are they focused on quality? Next, we have sentiment analysis. Here the question is simple. What's the mood? Are the conversations about your brand positive? Are they negative? Or just kind of neutral? It's like taking a real-time pulse check on how people feel about you.
And finally, there's network analysis. This is where you ask who's talking to whom. This is super powerful because it helps you spot the key influencers and the central hubs in your community. You can literally see how ideas and trends are spreading.
So back to our friends at Bien Parfum. Through their analysis, they found something huge, a real game-changing insight. They discovered that videos featuring real people at events got 30% more engagement than their polished standard product ads. That's not just a hunch, right? That's a hard, data-driven fact they could use immediately. And that brings us to our final and maybe the most critical step of all, visualization. Because, let's be honest, an incredible insight is totally useless if it's just buried in a spreadsheet that nobody understands or even looks at. This is where we turn what we found into a clear, compelling picture that actually drives people to do something.
You've all heard that old saying, a picture is worth 1,000 words. Well, in the age of big data, that has never been more true. We're visual beings. Seeing the data helps us get it, like really get it in an instant. And this chart from Bien Perfum, it's the perfect example. That 30% insight we were just talking about? Boom, here it is. You don't need to read a 10-page report to understand what's happening. The real-life videos are the obvious winner. The data is just speaking for itself, loud and clear. And that is the power of good visualization. It's the bridge that takes you from a complicated, maybe even intimidating, spreadsheet straight to making confident, strategic decisions. It makes the data actionable for literally everyone on the team, not just the data scientists. Now, of course, this whole process isn't just a walk in the park. There's some real challenges to keep in mind. You absolutely have to respect user privacy. That's non-negotiable. You have to be aware of the restrictions that different platforms put on data access. And, like we talked about earlier, you have to be sure the data you're working with is actually reliable. Getting these things right is the foundation for any good ethical analysis. So let's wrap this all up. Every single like, every share, every comment, it's all part of a larger story that your audience is telling you. The DAV framework, well, it gives you the tools to finally listen in. So the only question left is, are you ready to hear what your data has to say?